and then tune it. I tuned it to a chord,
Okay.
and then just use a steel guitar bar. But it won't sustain if you don't put the piece. You could almost do it with an ice cream stick, but it's wood. You have to have something metal under here to make it work.
Is that what they call it, Ebo?
Yeah.
Okay.
And other tricks, I used to go to a piano. I'd go to the piano to get a really great plectrum sound. I put masking tape over the strings. And when you play it, you sound like a kind of harpsichord sound. Some great sounds that way. But that was the guitar. And on stage, it was hard to duplicate. When I did it, I wrote it in the strings. So the strings played it along with the guitar because the guitar couldn't sustain it.
Yeah.
So that was as close as we could get in concert.
That's how I heard it in 2003.
Yeah, the strings would play that.
Yeah.
And they make it work good.
Yeah.
But you know, I was conscious of not recording something we couldn't recreate on stage. Because I know, boy, you get out there on stage and you're missing this big important part. You know, it's not going to sound as good to the audience. They're going to miss that part.
So was using tapes never an option, or sample, what's known as sampling now?
I never did it.
Okay.
Milli Vanilli did it.
I have a question.
That's something you never were drawn
No,
to.
because sometimes technically you can run into trouble. It doesn't start when it's supposed to.
Oh yeah.
But we had strings always, because so many of the songs had strings. We'd have a string section in the concert. If that was, and I played a few times without them, and I'd ask people in the audience, I said, "Did you miss the strings?" And they said, "No, we just kind of hear it from the record, you know." And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but.
So, sorry.
I'm done.
Oh, okay. that led me on to another question. Why didn't you tour with a drummer in
Why didn't you win?
2003?
Go with
The drum player?
That's a good question.
What year was that?
A lot of my solo concerts, I didn't take drums. We just had guitar, electric guitar myself, bass and string. When I looked back at the key songs that the people were coming to hear, the drums did not play a significant part. They were musical, not rhythmical.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling with drums is a nightmare anyway. And when the drummer starts playing, all the drum sound usually goes over into the violin microphones and the cello microphones, and they wipe out the string section. And then you try to turn up the strings and you just get more drums. Very hard to isolate the drum. That's why you see all these big plastic devices around the drummer, is to keep his sound out of string mics or other people's microphones, vocal mics. So that's why I didn't take a drum. Don't need it. It's a headache. Is the concert any good without it? I missed it on Guitar Man, and a couple of the up-tempo songs. I missed it.
I personally thought I was expecting, the drum intro to come in on Lost Without Your Love.
Yeah,
that was the one where I sort of missed them, but everything else.
I missed them too.
Yeah.
And I can tell you another good story about missing drums. Are we here to listen to a couple of stories?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think this was in England. My drummer at the time was a guy named Jim Gordon, who co-wrote Layla with Eric Clapton. So anyway, during Diary, which was just me and the guitar, Jim would run off stage and smoke. He'd always get back in time for the next song, which is a big drum song. Have you heard this story?
No, I can relate.
So anyway, I do Diary and everything's fine. And I start the guitar on the next song and wait for that big drum thing. Nothing! I turn around. No Jim! He's not there. About halfway through the song, here he comes. So concert's over. Jim, what happened to you? He went off stage. He went out some door.
Got locked out, right?
And no, the security guard wouldn't let him back in. And he said, "I'm the drummer. I want the next song you got." "Oh, where's your ID?"
Yeah.
I mean, that's when backstage passes were invented by that time. And so he couldn't get back out there.
That's great.
So anyway,
So,
that was in English.
Goodbye Girl. Half the songs were old songs, and half, were they leftover songs, or did you go in and write those for the movie?
It was from scratch. Actually, the Goodbye Girl, I kind of had started that melody.
Are you talking about the whole album?
Yeah, the whole album.
Oh, the whole
Yeah.
album, yeah, that was sort of a mishmash of
Yeah.
stuff, because they were pressing me for, let's get something going quick, you know, I didn't have enough.
Yeah.
I guess the single was doing
Those are
well.
the songs there that were new, right there. And those were all new for the movie?
They weren't written for the movie.
No, just the
No.
Goodbye.
Just the-
Just Goodbye Girl. Oh, so the other ones were leftover songs from your first solo album?
No.
No, there were new things.
Half the album was new songs,
I
and the
think
other half was.
I think if I'm
Yeah.
answering your question correctly, Took the Last Train was sure a good song, man. That thing should have been a hit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was a minor hit, but it should have had a lot better success than it did. I always thought, I liked that song.
Yeah,
It's
I
huge
think
in
it was
Hawaii.
too-
It's a pretty big regional.
I
hit.
think it was
Go
too
away.
slow. I go back and listen to it now, it should have been faster. I should have sped it up. Just turn a dial, make it go, well, not ridiculous. But it took too long to develop. And you know, it's funny, when you've recorded something, you go back a year later and listen to it, you have new perspective, new fresh ears, and I still think that was too slow. I think, boy, if I made that a little bit faster, because it had a lot of good stuff in it, but it just, and when I went as a solo artist out of, when Bread disbanded, Elektra didn't quite know what to do, the record company. They didn't know kind of, what are we gonna do with this guy? I mean, do we treat it like Bread or, and they floundered for a while, trying to get my stuff played and find a little niche for me. I'm not blaming it on them, but I could have used a little more help.
Well, I noticed as a music director in Hawaii that the promo singles weren't coming. It was just like we found out, oh, there'd be, Cashbox or Billboard. Oh, he's got a new record out. Let's get this.
Yeah,
I had to go to the record store.
I could have used more help. It's the best way I can put it. I think it could have been a little more.
But then he decided to retire from music and become a cowboy,
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
which was fun.
Any stories about Laura Lee?
I'm sorry,
Any stories about Laura Lee, the song?
it's my daughter.
Yeah.
She liked it.
It has a certain feel to it, you know?
It's
Great.
like jazz, isn't it?
Kind of like Marina Del Rey or something.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah,
like, you know?
It's kind of a jazz rock thing, and
Yeah.
Like your version of Bob James.
That's
Or
right.
sample.
That's
It was
right.
like-
Because I love that kind of music. I listen to
Yeah.
it a lot.
It's one of our bathroom songs at work, so.
I
appreciate
tried,
it.
and
Good
I was
work.
going to get someone to come play the guitar. I actually played that guitar part on that.
Oh, nice.
It's not that hard. If you work on it, it's just that octave thing. You put your fingers in the right place and
Mhm.
just pluck the string. But I was kind of proud because I was going to try to get somebody to do it, and then I thought, well, I'll just try it. It's not like Guitar Man. I can't do that. But that one worked pretty good, and that's Larry Knechtel. I think that's Larry's best solo organ work I've ever heard him
It's
do.
beautiful.
I mean, he was just phenomenal, on fire on that record. I just let it go and go and go and go. As long as he's willing to play, we let the tape go. And I go back and listen to a lot of his stuff that he played. You know, he played the solo on Rockin' Pneumonia and Boogie Woogie Flu. What's that? What's the guy?
That did
John
the-
Rivers.
John Rivers never paid me the $50 he owes me. He played that solo and he was quite
And he
famous. for
probably
that.
doesn't
And
have 50
Bridge
bucks
Over
today.
Troubled
Yeah,
Waters.
yeah.
Okay, that's what he's really known for.
He got a Grammy for that.
He got a Grammy
Yeah.
for that. But what he did on that Laura Lee record, I thought was some of his.
That's his arrangement, his whole.
He just played the heck out of it.
Larry plays what Larry wants.
Yeah, Larry he wanted to play something different every take. He was
Yeah.
fanatical about it. And I'd say, Larry, the last time you on that practice run, you did this and this and here's, well, I don't remember. I said, yeah, you do, and I'll hum it to him. All right, I'll play it again. And he was so original. He just loved to
Yeah.
do something different every time.
What a talent. huge.
I will tell you, if you'll go listen to a song I did on one of my solo albums called "Thanking You, Sweet Baby James,"
Okay.
he played
I don't think it's on that one.
some keyboard stuff on that in between my guitar work that was so good. I told him, I said, Larry, some of this stuff's so good, I'm gonna write it into the string parts and some of the other parts with it. I'm gonna use some of your lines. He was the best I've ever heard. I mean, if you get him on a record session, he would pick that session up so quick. Leon gets most of the credit for being the great pianist, but I'd take Larry anytime, because he's a very versatile player.
The video of Yours for Life where Mike's playing the tambourine and Larry does the harmonica solo.
Yeah,
It's so fun to watch. Mike is like trying to get you to laugh kind of thing. It's so cool.
Mike was a cut-up.
I could tell he was sort of the clown.
He was really fun, and
Yeah.
when they were on the world tour, I was with them because our kids were all grown by then. So it was Mike's birthday, and he always had a special pair of shoes that he wore on stage, his drummer shoes.
Okay.
They were like ballet, almost like a man's ballet shoe,
Oh,
a soft
Caprizios.
shoe,
Caprizios,
Caprizios, yeah. And so I bought this happy birthday, confetti stuff,
Mhm.
and I was gonna put it in his drumming shoes, and then I thought, that is not smart. Because as much as Mike enjoys a joke, that would not be funny,
Yeah.
because if he put those shoes on and had to go on, that would not be a cool thing. So I put them in his street shoes.
Mm.
And then he thought it was hilarious. But I'm so glad I didn't put him in his
That's great.
drumming shoes. That would have probably been not a cool thing.
Mm.
But he was really a funny guy. But he would tell the same joke over and over again.
yeah. Every tour we heard the same jokes, but we politely listened, because he was a good guy.
Are
He
you going
was
to
the
share
most-
it?
Huh?
Are you going to share it?
He was the most professional
Yeah.
of I mean, well, he's down there, it's time to leave at 8:30 in the morning, he's there, he's got his stuff, he's ready to go. And very professional. But he and Rob butt heads like this. Oh, I mean, those two guys did not get along. But that's it.
Why did Rob leave the original version of
Well, it was an interesting story, because Rob wanted to be a screenplay writer. That was his love, and he came into Bread kind of using music as a way to get into movies and screenplays. And so he teamed up with James, and James would write the music, and Rob would usually do the lyrics, and they wrote some really good stuff together. But all of this was kind of so Rob could get himself into a position where he could get into the screenplay writing. So he wasn't a pure musician, and we had to teach him everything by rote, note by note by note. And so it was difficult for him. And then on stage, he had to memorize everything. And if he got something happened, it would throw him off. It took him a long time to get back, because he wasn't a pure musician to pick up where he left off. So then he and Mike weren't getting along real great. And Rob was kind of getting pretty cranky to work with amongst the group. And I thought, he's struggling on stage. We need a true musician that can solo. And Rob can still write with James. So Rob's not getting hurt if he still is a songwriter and participating in half the Bread songs. But if we can get somebody in there like a Larry Knechtel that can solo and play and do a lot of stuff, it'll strengthen the band. I didn't think we would make it past the second album if we had to stay with Mike and James and Larry and myself. 'Cause-
Did Larry come in right as Rob left?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
so-
that was the plan, and
Okay.
Elektra said that they would give Rob a couple of points, a little royalty. If he'll lead, let Larry come in, he can still write with James, no harm done, but we'll have a stronger musical band. And,
That was after On the Waters, right?
yeah, and it was a smart move, because we were really struggling on stage. I mean, because other bands, we were opening for Santana, and they were blowing us off the stage. I mean, you got to be pretty good, and so And James played well, but he didn't solo particularly well. He was a great rhythm player, a great singer. So we're lacking a guy. We need somebody.
You soloed sometimes, didn't you?
Yeah, but I'm not great at it either. You know, songwriting was always my strength, and I play well enough on guitar.
I've seen you let loose a few times.
Yeah, I play the old Chuck Berry stuff. I could
Yeah.
do.
How did you get Larry to leave session work and come on the road?
Well, I had to work on him a little bit, but he and I were like this
Oh, I see.
because I had met him. This is crazy. Why I don't know. But when Dwayne Eddy was recording his guitar albums, and it was just 4 pieces, RCA Victor hired me to arrange a Dwayne Eddy album. So what am I going to do? Write out parts for bass, guitar? I mean, there was no strings, there's no horns. I don't know what I'm doing there. But I met Larry, because Larry was Dwayne's keyboard player. And we hit it off right away. You know, he loves the country and cattle ranching and all the stuff that I liked in music. And so we became buddies. And when Rob was going to depart, Larry was the right guy to get. And he was, the Wrecking Crew was kind of running their course. They were getting near the end of it. A lot of people were recording at home now and becoming self-contained groups. And I think he was ready for kind of a little more steady gig.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one of the things about Larry, I found that he doesn't really get a lot of credit for. He actually was the bass player on the first Doors album. He played bass on that first album, kind of uncredited.
I don't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't remember him saying anything about
Yes.
it, but
Bass.
excellent bass player. Really, really good.
He lived around here towards the end of his life.
Yeah, Spokane.
He lived
Yakima.
in
Falls.
Maple Falls.
Okay.
He had a Maple Falls, 80 acres for years and years and years.
Tell him about the guy with the 10, that bought 10 acres of his, how
Yeah.
small the world is.
Yeah, I ran across a guy the other day, it's a forester. And he lives in Maple Falls on 10 acres that used to be Larry's 80-acre place. They busted it into 10-acre pieces.
Isn't that a small world?
But his primary home was in North Hollywood. And we were in Los Angeles at the time. This is a small, silly story, but we had some horses and we'd horse trailer around. And there was a guy in Linden, that's up just by the Canadian border, who made wonderful aluminum custom horse trailers. And Larry just lived about 10 miles away. And I said, Larry, this guy's making me a horse trailer, and you drive back and forth to LA up to Linden all the time. Will you drive that horse trailer down for me? He says, yeah, if I can fill it with firewood. So he filled it with firewood because he wanted firewood from his ranch
Oh.
down in his home in Los Angeles. He was really proud. He'd cut his own firewood.
Wow.
But I didn't know Larry was ill or with any kind of heart trouble at all. I mean, I was the most shocked. Somebody else called and told me Larry had passed away. I had no idea because he was out, robust, healthy, mountain man all the time. I was a real surprise.
What about Mike? Was that right away or was that coming for some time?
You know, it's a funny thing about Mike. When we got together for the reunion tour, 1995, 1996, he didn't look well to me. I didn't say anything to him, but he didn't look really well. He was a very sedentary guy. He didn't exercise at all. He didn't walk much. He just sat a lot.
But he loved to cook.
But he loved to cook, and so he's very not much exercise. And you know, he had colon cancer, is what got him. It spread. And I swear, if I could have got him to get out and exercise, we tried to get him to go do some stuff with us. We went on a thing in South Africa. We went on one of those safari parks. And we couldn't get Mike to go. I just think if he'd been a little bit more athletic or something, it would have not affected him the way it did. But he was healthy all the time. He looked good just until he got that illness. James smoked his whole life. So him getting the lung cancer is not a shock. I mean, we talked about it. He probably knew that something was going to catch him one of these days. But
So when you did your first solo album, were any of the songs like you were talking about earlier, about Cloud Suite, were there Bread versions of those songs that you recorded that just didn't feel right about?
Okay, if I understand your question, are you saying
Did Bread do
some
versions?
songs on the first album I didn't record with Bread because I didn't feel they were right for Bread?
No, your first solo album.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah,
Well,
The
like
answer
the
is
Cloud
no.
Suite, I was
Yeah.
telling you, the Cloud Suite I had
yeah.
while we were still, Bread was together,
Did you
but I
change
didn't
it?
think I could have done that
Oh, okay.
because it wasn't appropriate for a group.
Okay.
So, you know, a couple, three of those I had held back because I just
Mm.
didn't think they were right.
Okay.
But they'd be good for solo artists. Matter of fact, Rob didn't want me to do Diary on the Bread album. He thought that was too much of a solo artist kind of a thing. It's not really a group effort.
Hmm.
And so I said, I understand what you're talking about, but I said, we need some good songs here, and this is a good song. And yeah, it's not quite a group song. There's no harmony. And that happened with Make It With You too, because the first album, if you go back and listen to it, that was the direction we were going. Lots of harmonies and lots of good stuff in there, but we didn't get a hit record out of it. And so we started the second album, and I told Jim and Rob, I said, you know, if we don't get something going on the second album, I'm going to have to quit because, you know, I got a family to feed and I'm doing good as an arranger. So I wrote Make It With You, which isn't really a harmony song. There's a harmony in it, a couple of spots. But the label liked it and they wanted it out.
Solid album.
It was a good album. And we had a lot of songs later that had lots of harmony in it,
Mhm.
tons of stuff. But we weren't successful. We thought we were going to be Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah.
Which
But
is,
you're so much better looking.
well, now, I don't know. Crosby might argue that.
Hasn't looked in the mirror lately.
But so our success came kind of from a different direction than we expected. We thought it was going to be those
Yeah.
Dismal Day and Anyway You Want Me and all those harmony things. So you never know. You just keep putting them out until something hits.
Hey David, talking about Diary, when you were writing this song, you know, the lyric twist that happens in the last verse.
Yeah, very
Did
cool.
you have that in mind when you first started the song, or did it just unveil itself? as you wrote
It unveiled
Is
itself.
that right? Because that what makes that whole song, it's a surprise twist.
Yeah, and you know, it's I kind of surprised myself even because you get to that point and you say, oh, here I can go down road A or road B,
Right.
and the twist seemed neat. And,
So it's not autobiographical, like you said?
No, but you know.
No, and neither is Aubrey. My friends
Yeah.
called me, are you guys getting a divorce?
Oh.
Is there another woman in David's life?
No, but the diary thing, you know.
Maybe
it's-
it was about Sandy
It
Bryant.
was, yeah, it was just fiction. But you know, I referred to this because it was good. Somebody had asked John Lennon if he experienced everything that he wrote about. He said, no, I couldn't possibly experience that much stuff. A lot of this stuff I have to make up. It's fictional. And it's true. I mean, you can't, you know, I mean, some people write about what happened to them, I guess. But that won't last very long. If you're cranking out 10 or 12 songs, you're going to have to make up some. But you know, you would get sometimes some fan letters and stuff. Then they tell some things that happened to them. And you read the paper, there's human interest stories all over the place if you just pay attention. Lots of sources to draw from.
You were listening to the Baby I'm Gonna Want You album on the drive in. I said to Tricia, Diary is like their Eleanor Rigby. It's so poignant and it's haunting, and it almost makes you want to tear up if you
Yeah.
listen to that lyric. You know.
Makes me never want to sit under a tree ever again.
There was so
Reading
many
any
great.
books you find.
There was
Torn
so
that
many
tree
great
anyway.
songs. That one stuck out as really different than the rest.
Yeah, it is that way. And you know, that song that I had earlier, Look at Me,
Yeah.
the song, it's a little bit like that.
Yeah, it's true.
And
I want to ask you guys a question. On the solo album, Dear World, do you remember that song?
maybe they haven't heard it.
Solo
Yeah.
album.
My,
Do you know it?
Yeah.
That's one of my all-time favorite songs that he's written.
I love the chorus melody in that one.
Yeah,
yeah.
I just
I
love
love
that
I love
song.
I'm not really very good at music theory. I love the way that the bass line changes, but the top stays the same.
Yeah.
I
it's
don't know
all-
what the technical term for that
It goes
is.
together nice.
It's wonderful.
Well, you know, I'm a strong believer in a correlation between the bass line and the vocal, because I used to play the bass and sing together, and they nurture each other. And if you've got somebody that's sensitive to that, you'll change a little bit of your melody, and you'll work in a harmony almost. You're playing thirds between the bass and the vocal. You can do some great things that are not highly noticeable, but they're just little subtle things that make you want to go back and listen again and again.
It's Dear World on 17, it is, isn't it?
And maybe it's, maybe it is.
Yeah.
It's on
Yeah,
the
it's one
Discovery.
played the solo album.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a remarkable song, I think. It's totally undiscovered. But she's always after me to go push it to somebody. Who did we have in mind?
I don't know.
Well, you'll have to come up with
I'll have to come up with somebody. I'll get on the phone.
I have a question. When your kids were growing up, what did they think about your career?
Oh, I can answer that. David was home, he'd been on the road, he was home, and he went to do a radio interview. And our oldest daughter came home and she said, "Where's Dad?" I said, "Oh, honey, he went to do an interview." And she said, "Why would anybody want to talk to Dad?" So that's pretty much the way his children felt about it. And then as they got older, our youngest son was dating the girl that he eventually married. And she said to me, "You know, it was the strangest thing." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Well, Craig always talked about his mother and his brother and his sisters and everyone in his family, you know, extended family even, but he never talked about his father." And she said, "I got really worried. I thought, is he in prison? Is he a criminal? I mean, why?" And I know he's in his life, but he never talks about his father. And she said, so one day I just got up my nerve and I decided to ask him, "Why do you never talk about your father? I mean, what's the problem?" And Craig said, "Well, we don't generally talk about our dad because he's a little bit famous and, you know, he's David Gates of Bread." She went, "What? Are you kidding me? And you had to not tell me that until we're like practically engaged?" So it was pretty cute. But that's kind of the way our kids were. They were very protective of their father. And they just, you know, and they, you know, I don't know, I know a lot of kids whose parents are well known. It's very hard on the children. Because people, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it's very hard for the children. And I feel sorry for all the kids whose parents are in the limelight in any way. Because we were really lucky that David was part of a group. There wasn't a single spotlight like a solo artist.
Plus you guys leave low, too.
We, for very good reasons, because we've seen so many people like Glenn
Sure.
Campbell's children, I mean, you name it. They're so messed up.
Yeah.
They are so messed up. And that was just something that we really worked hard with our kids to keep it a normal, hey, we're just, you know, it's just Dad. He's Dad.
This is like your job.
It's a job.
But it
Somebody
wasn't
said
like-
that.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah, somebody said to me one time, "Do you go to all of David's concerts?"
Yeah.
And I went, "Do you go to work with your husband when he goes to the office?" It's a job.
Job to go home and sit there all day.
Exactly.
Did you come out much back in the day on the road?
No, never.
Never?
Mm-mm. I stayed home. We had four kids.
you know, all in school and stuff.
And busy, you know,
But
very
we're-
active.
Oh, I'm talking
kids.
72, 73.
No, never.
Oh, okay.
Never. The only time I ever went with him was when he did his solo stuff.
Okay.
And I went with the Bread reunion tour because all of our kids were grown and gone then. And it was so interesting. I learned so much.
Mm.
But I stayed with the group. I mean, I traveled like one of the band members.
Mm.
I went to every, you know, sound rehearsal and I sat with the sound man, and I mean, it was really fascinating. I learned so much. I learned I'd rather be a housewife.
Yeah. I read that you guys were actually, on the first album tour, you were the house band at Parker's for about 2 weeks.
Were we?
Parker's, yeah, up here in Seattle.
In Seattle, that sounds reasonable.
Tell me more about Parker's.
Parker's is on Aurora Avenue. It used to be called the Aquarius Tavern back in the day.
No, the first concerts we ever played were in Seattle.
Yeah,
But-
we had a residency though.
But no, we never played more than one, maybe twice someplace.
Oh,
That's kind of a funny story.
yeah, I was reading your itinerary and it showed all those dates.
Well, when the first single came out, The Dismal Day and Any Way You Want Me, it was doing pretty well in Seattle and no place else.
Mhm.
So a local promoter up here, a guy named Willie Leopold, who was 20 years old,
Mhm.
booked us to come up and play a club, some other place, a roller skating rink, God knows
Yeah,
where.
Lake Hills Roller Rink.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we came up and played these things.
Mhm.
And later, we liked him so much, we hired him as our road manager. And he now manages Melissa Etheridge.
Oh, right on.
Neat guy.
Ah.
So he's a Seattle guy. But,
Really a neat Seattle.
But
guy.
he felt so bad because we played that roller rink and we packed him in there.
Yeah.
I think he's paying us $200. And he's charging, $10 a head. There's 2,000 kids in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's just got money pouring out. He's giving us $200 and he's really feeling guilty. I should have paid these guys some more. So he never did give us any more money. Well, listen, we've kept you guys long enough here. I know you need to do your Bread fan club business.
Could I ask you something about one of your songs? What a Change really strikes me as a classic Bread song. It wasn't one of the big hits, but I never tire of listening to that. Is there a story behind that song?
Which one?
What a change. It was one of the more obscure songs.
I don't even remember that.
There's nothing special that goes with it that I can remember.
I love that organ
Sorry.
part, but it's probably wrong.
Yeah, it could be. It was but there are nice chord changes in there. I always liked it.
It's one of my favourites.
Pardon me?
I was saying that's one of my favourite songs you've written.
Oh,
It's
really?
interesting how you
It's a good song.